after years of studying how people make and fail to make the decisions that would change their lives. It's not evidence of who you are or what you're capable of. Self-doubt, it's a governance problem. Most of the fear that is running your life right now did not originate with you. You absorbed it. The borrowed warrior's greatest trick is making you believe that your fear is intuition. You are living your actual, irreplaceable life based upon the opinions of people who don't even exist. The committee is always in session. The question is, who is running that meeting? Welcome to Done Pretending, the podcast where healing meets authentic living. I am your host, Susan Houston, storyteller, mentor, and believer in the power of truth to set us free. This is your sanctuary for the soul, a safe space where we peel back the layers of judgment and fear to uncover the beauty of living real. Each week, you'll hear stories of courage, resilience, and transformation that remind you it's never too late to become who you were created to be. Hi, friends. I'm going to tell you about something that happened to me years ago that I think is going to resonate with a lot of you. Not the exact same story, but you can place yourself in this similar situation. I had a company and we designed and manufactured hooded animal towels for babies and toddlers, and then later even adults. Think of like ducky towels, bunny towels, shark towels, everything. So this was my third show of an art and wine festival displaying this product. I had developed the product, taken it to production, and was ready to go within a month or two. I knew exactly what to do with this product, even though I had never done it before. I just truly believed in it. But at this show, this lady walks into my booth and she says, "Wow, I love this product. And I think you can just explode this, and I want to help you." And I'm thinking, who is this gal, right? I didn't recognize her, in all honesty. But she came back and talked to me 4 times that weekend. She told me how she could scale production, how we could outsource everything. Every objection I threw at her, she countered with a solution. She told me who she was. And yet, I didn't say yes. I said, "I don't think I can do it." And she looked at me and she said, "Susan, if you can't believe in yourself, I can't help you." And she turned and walked away. Now, I knew in that moment I had probably made the biggest mistake, at least in this business, that I had ever made in my life. That was Lori Greiner, queen of QVC. She was just building QVC, and she wanted to put my product on there and help me scale it. This was long before Shark Tank. And everything that she does for those entrepreneurs on Shark Tank, she was willing to do it with me. And I said no. So here's what I know now. And it took me a really long time to see it clearly. I didn't make that decision. A committee did. And I hadn't elected a single person on that committee. Welcome to the Doubt Committee. And I have a feeling you've been on this committee and it's been part of you many times before as well. Here's what I've come to understand after years of studying how people make and fail to make the decisions that would change their lives. Self-doubt, it's not a feeling. It's not a personality trait. It's not evidence of who you are or what you're capable of. Self-doubt, it's a governance problem. There is a meeting happening inside your head right now, probably. And most of us have never even questioned who's in the room. And that's what I call the doubt committee. Every single person I have ever worked with, or spoken to, or coached, or even just sat across from, every entrepreneur, CEO, and even every parent, if they've been standing on the edge of some dream and they haven't let themselves say it out loud yet, every one of them has a doubt committee. And in most cases, that committee It's been running the meeting for decades without anyone calling it to order. Now, the Dow Committee, it's got three members. They're very distinct voices. And the trick is you've got to learn to name them. And once you can actually identify which one is talking to you, something is going to shift. You're going to stop reacting to the noise and you're going to start running the meeting. Yeah. The first member of this committee I call the inner critic. It's a voice that uses your own history against you. It knows every decision you've ever made, where every body's buried. It has the perfect recall of every failure and every embarrassing moment and every time that you tried and it didn't go as planned. And we've all been there. It's extraordinarily good at presenting that evidence exactly when you need the confidence the most. I call that old echoes from the past. The second member of this committee is the borrowed warrior. We all have this as well. And this one's kind of sneaky because it feels like it's you. It sounds like your own anxiety. But here's the thing, most of the fear that is running your life right now did not originate with you. You absorbed it. Think of absorbing it like secondhand smoke. It's toxic, it doesn't belong to you, but it can absolutely derail you. And it comes from people that we trust. It can be your parents, your teacher, maybe a coach, someone who told you to be realistic, or from a culture that has very specific opinions about who gets to take up space and dream big. The borrowed warrior is carrying someone else's baggage, and it's convinced you that it belongs to you. Now, the third member of this committee, this is the one that I think is the most devastating, but very quietly. It's called the phantom judge. This is an imaginary audience and you are performing your entire life for it. You and I can relate to this. We've been putting on masks, telling everybody that we're fine, telling everyone that we've got this parenting thing down. We've got the employee thing down. We've got this student thing down. Yeah. Well, the people you picture watching you watch you fail. And even though this hasn't happened, you're imagining the faces when that you would see when you think about it. The invisible jury that is almost always in session, they're always watching and they're always there to deliver a verdict. Here's the thing about the phantom judge, and it really caught me off guard once I finally understood it. You're going to love this. They are completely made up. The jury, it never convened. The courtroom, it doesn't exist. You have been living your life for a panel of fictional people. The doubt committee, the three members, zero term limits until today. So let's talk about them a little more. Let's see what we can do with this committee. Let's talk about the inner critic. This one, this inner critic has a way of getting a lot of press in our minds lately. And that's good because it means more people are at least aware that there's a voice in their head that doesn't always have their best interests at heart. But here's where most of the conversation, most of the coaching that you're going to hear on this, on limiting beliefs, goes wrong. People treat the inner critic like it was an enemy to be defeated. They try to silence it or argue with it. They talk about positive affirmations and that will take them past it. None of that works because you cannot logic your way out of something that's not operating on logic. Neuroscientists have a name for the brain network that generates the inner critic, and it's called the default mode network. When your mind isn't occupied with the task, this network activates. And what does it do? Well, it runs a self referential narrative. It tells you a story about yourself, who you are, where you fall short, what your past means, and what your future is essentially your brain's screensaver. And it's not always flattering. Now, here's what changed everything for me. And this is what I teach the people that I work with. If there's a voice and there is someone who is hearing that voice, then you are not the voice. You are the listener. So if you've got this little voice whispering in your ear, like, you're not good enough, or you could have done better, you're listening to that. You're not creating that. And that distinction, it's everything. You are not the inner critic. You are just the one who hears it. And the one who hears it gets to decide whether to believe it or not. You have to learn to distinguish this. Okay. I want to give you a real example of what this looked like in my life because I think all this abstract thinking is an enemy of making a real change. So, when Lori asked me and told me I had this incredible product that she could help me take to levels I can't even imagine, my inner critic didn't say in a big, booming voice, "You're not good enough for this." It was far more sophisticated than that. And it said, "You're not ready. This product, it needs more work. You'll go when the time's right." And it said, "You can't trust her. This isn't the right opportunity, but a better one's probably coming." And unfortunately, I believed it at the time. So it described all of that doubt within me as discernment. It dressed up my fear in clothes of wisdom. And because I never learned to identify the voice, I mistook it for my own good judgment. And that's what the inner critic does at its most sophisticated moments. It doesn't scream, it whispers, and it sounds exactly like you. So, the first practice, the first thing I want you to take away from this segment is this: the next time you hear a voice telling you you can't, or you shouldn't do that, or why you're not ready, I want you to pause and then ask yourself one question: is this my wisdom, or is this just a wound inside of me talking? Wisdom will expand you, fear and wounds will contract you. They feel very similar in the moment, but they are pointing in entirely different directions. Member number two, the borrowed warrior. I need to tell you something that I believe is one of the most under conversed ideas in the entire personal development space. Most of the fear that's running your life right now, today, isn't yours. You didn't generate it. You didn't earn it. You didn't derive it from your own lived experience. You absorbed it. You inherited it. You picked it up from the people around you, just like the way you pick up an accent. So I was recently in England, and I'll be darned if I didn't start saying, "Oh, good day," and have that funny little accent. I thought it was cute. I don't think they did. But it comes upon you gradually, unconsciously, until it sounds exactly like your own voice. Researchers who study intergenerational trauma, the way that stress and fear patterns are transmitted from parent to child, they found that we don't just inherit genetic material from our parents, we inherit emotional frameworks. Their threat responses become ours. Their definition of what is safe and what is dangerous also becomes ours. So, your mother's anxiety about money became your anxiety about money. Whew, that statement, that hits home for me. This is a big one that, I'll be honest, I'm trying to work through right now. Here's another one: your father's belief that people like us don't do things like that became the quiet ceiling over all of your ambitions. Your teacher's comment that, "Ugh, you're such a dreamer," said like it was a problem, became the voice that tells you you need to be more realistic. Every time you feel something stir in your chest, that voice will take you back down and make you stop over exaggerating things. If this episode hits something for you, don't keep it to yourself. Follow me and follow the show so you don't miss what's next. Leave a comment because I actually do read them, and share this with someone who needs to hear it, even if they don't know it yet. This member, the borrowed worrier, it's because the worry is real. I'm not dismissing that. I'm not telling you to think positive and get over it. The worry's real. It just doesn't belong to you. And there is a difference between working through fear that is genuinely yours and carries weight, and holding on to the fear that you were handed by somebody else who, because of themselves, because of their own traumas, were afraid. And here's how I know the borrowed warrior was sitting with me that day I didn't say yes to QBC. There was lots of stories in my family, mostly unspoken, never really talked about because our parents didn't talk about stuff or money like this with us, but it was absolutely present. And wanting things too much was dangerous. Visible success usually invited loss or failure in my family. It was safer to stay small, stay quiet, and stay below the radar. And I did that for a lot of years. And let me tell you, my parents didn't sit me down and tell me this. I just absorbed it by watching them, by hearing them talk, starting to have my own dreams and having them quietly dismiss them. So when an opportunity arrived that was by any objective measure significant and exciting, my nervous system, it lit up. And it wasn't from excitement. It was more like alarm. It was a threat because somewhere inside of me, a much older voice whispered, people like us, we don't do things like that. We work hard and we just live our lives, we pay our bills, and we keep our heads under the radar. Sound familiar? The borrowed warrior's greatest trick is making you believe that your fear is intuition. So, the symbol of my company is a compass, but your intuition is your compass. But borrowed fear is not. It's a cage, and it points you, it doesn't point you anywhere. Your compass will point you in a direction. The other locks the door. So here's a question, and I want you to sit with this for a moment. Actually, think about this. Take a breath. What is one fear that is currently limiting you? What is one thing that you're not doing, you're not pursuing, you're not allowing yourself to want? And now I want you to ask, whose voice do I hear when I think about this? Is it mine? Or is it a fear I developed somewhere along the way that maybe from someone or something that directly happened to me? Does it sound like someone else? Does it have someone else's words? Mine always had my dad's words. You're never going to make it. It's never good enough. You don't have to answer this out loud, but I want you to notice, I want you to feel what comes up. Because the moment that you can say, that fear was borrowed, you have an option now for the first time to give it back. You don't have to hang on to that. And then there's member number 3, the phantom judge. All right. I've saved the most audacious member of the doubt committee for last. And I say audacious because when you see this one clearly, when you actually look at what we are doing, it's genuinely hard to believe that this is how we operate. The phantom judge. Psychologists have a name for this phenomenon where we massively overestimate how much people are watching us, thinking about us, and judging us. And they call it the spotlight effect. Study after study has demonstrated that we believe we are far more observed and evaluated than we actually are. And the spotlight we feel on ourselves, almost no one ever sees it. I have seen this demonstrated a lot recently from my Instagram feed. I look up a lot of workout things, and things will come up where the creator will say, I want to prove to you that people are not paying attention to you at the gym. And they will turn their camera on and they will be doing crazy crap. They'll be hanging upside down on some of the bars, or they'll be doing just weird stuff. Nobody really pays attention. When you see someone just staring off into space, even though you may cross their line of sight, they're not looking at you. They're in their own head. But the phantom judge, it goes deeper than the spotlight effect because it's not even real people overestimating your visibility. It is entirely fictional people living inside our heads, judging a version of us that we've invented. Great. Now I have people living inside my head. You have constructed an audience. We all have. And you've written scripts for them like it's a play. And you've imagined their reactions to choices, your failures, your audacity to do something, your ambitions of what you want to do in extraordinary detail. And then you have used those reactions, the imagined reactions from your fictional committee here, to make real decisions. Think about what I just said. You are living your actual irreplaceable life based upon the opinions of people who don't even exist. The jury was never convened. The courtroom in your head, it's yours. So that phantom judge is simply a voice that makes you rehearse an apology for a dream you haven't even had yet. Let me tell you exactly what this phantom judge sounded like on the day that I talked to Lori. It wasn't that you're not good enough. It wasn't that you're not ready. It was a whole scene. And I'm not exaggerating when I say it was a whole internal movie. She talked to me over the course of 2 days. So the night in between, boy, did my mind go crazy. It was me standing on this set under the lights and something goes wrong. And then the faces. It was me trying to produce enough product and then failing miserably and having all of these executives look at me like, "What an idiot. She's not capable of doing this. Why is she even trying this? Let her stay in her small little lane of doing art and wine festivals." All of those people, they were people who would know and who would see and who would have an opinion, but people I hadn't spoken to and who had never once indicated any interest in my business. I didn't know them. People who, if I'm being fully honest, they weren't thinking about me at all. And in that movie in my brain, they were front row center. They were popcorn in hand. Let's just watch this show explode. And that's pretty much how I ran a lot of opportunities that I had. My judges, my committee, boy, they just wanted to sit back and watch me fail. And I made a real, lasting, consequential business decision based on those. And here's the research that lands the hardest when I share this in my work with people. When scientists have studied this spotlight effect, they find that even when we know intellectually that people are not watching, we still feel it. How is that? It's the feeling, it persists past the knowledge, which tells us something really important. The phantom judge is not a thinking problem. It's not something that you can just reason your way out of. It requires a practice, a real interruption to dissolve it. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Now, I want to make this clear. Our brains love pattern recognition. So we are going to interrupt all of this and take over the meeting. But this jury, this convene of these people who want to derail our lives in our brain, they're never going away. But I'm going to show you how to stop letting them run the show. Now that you know the committee and you know their names, you know their tactics, you might be asking, okay, how's that help me? Now what? Do I just fire them? Do I try and get them to be quiet? No. You don't fire the committee and you simply call the meeting to order because I want you to remember something. You're in charge. The inner critic, the borrowed warrior, and the phantom judge, they're not evidence of a broken mind or a broken spirit. There's nothing wrong with you. It's evidence of a mind that's trying to protect you. They're ancient, they're clumsy, and often they're completely wrong, but they are trying to keep you safe in the only ways that they've ever known how. The problem isn't that they don't exist. The problem is that nobody has ever been in charge of the meeting in your head until now. I want to give you three questions. Three questions that when you ask them in the moment, when you feel those doubts arising, when you feel yourself pulling back from something that excites you and terrifies you at the same time. These three questions will tell you exactly which committee member is speaking to you. Question one: is this wisdom or a wound? When you hear the doubt, stop. Ask it: is this fear something that has protected me before, or has it only ever kept me small? Wisdom has a track record and it has receipts, and it can point to specific, relevant evidence. Fear in disguise mostly just has vibes, if you want to call it that. It feels urgent and it's purposely vague. You won't be able to identify a specific, relevant, or recent piece of evidence for why this is dangerous for you. That is probably not your own wisdom. That's your wound. And wounds deserve compassion, but not obedience. Question two: whose voice is this? When you feel that hesitation, listen to the actual words in your head. Listen to the tone. Is it your voice or is it an older voice, a familiar voice, a voice learned rather than developed? And it takes a little practice at this, but ask yourself, if I had grown up in a different family, gone to a different school, in a different culture, would this fear even exist? If the answer is probably not, you are carrying something borrowed. You can set it down. If it's borrowed, give it back. You do not have to keep someone else's ceiling over your future. And then question three: who specifically is watching? So when you feel the phantom judgment, don't let it stay vague. I want you to name it. Force it to be specific. Who exactly do you imagine is watching you and judging you? What are their names? What are their actual opinions of you, as best you know? And I want you to ask, when did you actually have a conversation with them about your life? Most of the time, you force that phantom judge to name actual people. You realize that either those people don't care or that you don't actually care about their opinion as much as you think you do. The phantom is only powerful in the dark of our mind. We need to bring it out to the light, and then it will fade into the background. So these three questions are how you take your chair back in this committee. You are the leader of this boardroom. And I want to give you one phrase that I love. It sticks with me, and I say it out loud often. You can too. And I do it when I need it the most. I see you. Sit down. I've got this. I say it to my inner critic. I say it to the borrowed worrier. And I say it to the phantom judge. Not with anger and rage, but with calm authority, because I am finally someone who now recognizes who's actually in charge of this meeting. I see you. Sit down. I've got this. That's you, by the way. It was always you. So I want to go back to that weekend with Lori. I want to go back to me standing there watching a once in a lifetime career opportunity say no. I used to think that story was about a missed chance in my life and what could have happened had I gone the other way. And I used to tell it only to myself that it was evidence of a verdict that I had already delivered of what I was capable of. I was never capable of doing that. But now I see it differently. I see the woman, me, who was running the meeting, but I didn't know I was in it. I had my inner critic dressed up as wisdom who took over. I had a borrowed worry that didn't belong to me. And I had a quiet family story about people like us don't live up to that level. We don't do things like that. And if I had listened to my dad, who often told me that I would end up in the gutter someday, little did he know I'd be standing on the street selling hooded towels, but that's another story. The girl, the woman who went through that, I was not weak and I wasn't broken. I was just, well, like everybody else here, I was operating without a framework, without a name, what was happening, without understanding of it. And no one had pulled back the curtain for me and said, hey, there's a meeting going on in here and you're not running it. So I'm telling you this now. There is a meeting going on inside of you. You, the real one, the real you, the one underneath this committee, the one who felt that first flutter of excitement before the doubt arrived. You are the one who gets to run the show. You are the head of this committee. So this week, here's your one thing I want you to do. Just one. Find the thing you've been not deciding, the conversation you haven't had, the application you haven't written or submitted, the product you've been holding off launching because it's not ready yet, the call you haven't returned because instead of believing that it could lead to a possibility, you've already decided that they're not going to want me. What is that dream you've been talking yourself out of now with very organized, very reasonable, and very convincing committee logic? I want you to find it and then ask the three questions, name the member, and take over the meeting. The committee is always in session. The question is, who is running that meeting? Starting today, it's you. I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining me on Done Pretending, where healing meets authentic living. If today's conversation moved you, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't yet, be sure to follow the show and leave a review. Your words help this message reach more hearts around the world. Remember, you are seen, you are loved, and your story has the power to set others free.